Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Ron, and I'm back with you for another episode of Boomer Life Lessons and Stories. And it has been a while. I took some time off after the end of the last semester to kind of recuperate and take care of some personal business, but we are back. Actually, I have done one episode since the 1st of May, and that was the interview with Donna French, where we discussed lifelong learning. And really, that is a good segue into today's topic. And we're going to be talking about Socrates and some of the things that he has said. But before we go there, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. That would help me immensely with this channel and, of course, the YouTube algorithm. Okay, so we talked about lifelong learning and why that was important. But, perhaps one of the things that I failed to discuss to any great extent, but I have mentioned it throughout several other episodes, but maybe not to the emphasis that I wish to make today. I have emphasized the importance of knowing yourself and lifelong learning, always striving to learn something more each and every day so that you can be something more each and every day. The really the quote from Socrates that I wish to kind of open up this segment with is, in some respects, kind of harsh. So, what is this quote from Socrates? He said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Wow. Let me say it one more time just so you guys don't get wound up with my amusement at it. I don't think it's funny. I think it's very serious, but it's just, it's very impactful. Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. Now, why is that? Why would he go to great extent to teach his students to think before they move or to think before they act? And pretty much that is what he's saying in so many ways, but he's saying so much more. I think first, it has to do with knowing who you are. And Socrates had another quote that was emphasizing that point. He said, to find yourself, think for yourself. What does that mean? Well, that means don't be influenced unduly by others. Don't fall prey to others' personality, because strong personalities attempt to sway people and get them to do things for that strong personality, not necessarily the right thing. It could be good or bad, right? Charisma can be used for the good, like Dr. Martin Luther King. He changed a nation for the better, right? But charisma can also be used for the bad, and that would be people like Jim Jones, a cult leader that caused many people to commit suicide, and Congress people were killed, and so forth. So you have to balance all that, knowing if I'm about to get engaged with something that's important to me, one, I need to know why it's important to me and how it relates to me. And my question would be, if you don't know yourself, how can you do anything that might be beneficial to you? So he simply states, Socrates says, know thyself, be true to thy own self. But you cannot be true to something that you're ignorant of. And that means not knowledgeable of, right? And I really appreciate what he's trying to tell each and every one of us. He's saying that really, if we want to be all that we can be, we must first examine who we are, what our likes and dislikes are, where our passion lies, what's important to us, both from a relationship standpoint, who's in our life, who's not in our life, who do we look up to, and why do we look up to them for guidance and mentoring. All of that rolls down into defining who you are. He goes on to say something else that is very impactful. And perhaps I should have led with this, but I think it's a way to wrap up his thoughts before we go and probe this a little deeper. He said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. The mind is everything. what you think, you become. And I do believe that. I believe what we dwell on is what we find most important. And we want to do better for ourselves, for our family, for the organizations we work for. But if we don't know ourselves and we're dwelling on the wrong things, we're going to be not as successful as we could be. And perhaps we could even be a failure. The unexamined life is not worth living. And that is a very hard saying to hear about oneself. So what we do as teachers and mentors is we want the individual to begin to find out who they are. What are they passionate about? What's important to them? I have students come to me every day of the week, and they're asking for guidance about, should I do this or should I do that in my career? Should I interview with this company or should I interview with that company? Or how do I know what is the right job to accept if I've got multiple offers? You know, you hear these questions all the time, and I remember when I was in that same predicament. But what I always tell them is, or ask them, well, what's important to you? What are you interested in? What are you passionate about? And you know, most all of them pause and begin to think deeply, because I think a lot of people are kind of running on this superficial wave. We're surfing along that superficial wave and we're not probing the depths of the ocean as to who we really are and what's really important to us. And because of that, we make decisions based on very superficial facts. And when we do that, they're not very stable. What the danger is if you make a decision based on superficial analysis and not thinking deeply and not thinking critically, you're going to be going here, and then you're going to be going there, and then you're going to be going there, and you're never going to find something that you're passionate about that you can spend a career with, or that you can spend hours and hours of your time growing and developing yourself as perhaps a hobby. But the point is that without inspecting and thinking longly and deeply about what is important to us and why we're about to do whatever it is we're about to do, we can never truly determine if it's the right thing. Now, I will tell you this. No matter what you decide after great lengths of deliberation and deep critical thinking, happenstance does occur, and even the best intentions can be undermined by happenstance, things that we could not possibly predict. But I will also tell you, you cannot build your life and plan ahead simply based on what badness could happen to you. Because if you do that, you'll never get off the porch, right, and run with the big dogs. That's kind of a saying we have in the South. If you want to run with the big dogs, you got to get off the porch and go do something, right? And so that is all pent up energy in terms of where we want to spend our time and effort and how we think and what we think about, why it's so important to us. Without doing any of that, we can draw no firm conclusions. So when I think about the things that Socrates has shared with us, I think about a man that was well considered, well educated, and he had a passion for his students. He had a passion for not only teaching, but mentoring. And so when you find yourself in a place where after great lengths of deliberation and critical thinking and probing the depths of the environment and the situation, and you still don't know what to do, go find somebody that you respect, somebody that is experienced in the area that you're struggling in. You know, in industry, we call them subject matter experts. And the reason why we call them subject matter experts is because essentially they've been there, done that. They've gotten through it and they've been successful. So what you want to do is gather in the lessons learned and the wisdom of those that have already experienced it. And when you do that, you not are only basing your decisions on what you think is right and proper, but you're basing it on your lessons learned and other people's mentoring and lessons learned. And you know, you can't help but have a better decision-making process when you do that. When you gather in, very respectfully so, asking for others' inputs about certain situations or environments, and you listen whether you agree with them or not. You listen respectfully. You take all that data in as part of the fact finding, and then you think longly and deeply about it. And that is also true, so very, very key. If you do not think longly and deeply about it, what it is you're about to do, you may miss something, and that missing of something could reaffirm itself or come to light as an unintended consequence. And I'm here to tell you, unintended consequences for having done something can be both positive and negative. But in my life, when I didn't think longly and deeply about something, and there was an unintended consequence because I didn't think long and deeply enough, that unintended consequences was more likely to be negative. So how do you mitigate the risk of unintended consequences? You gather in the facts. You talk to people. You talk to the experts, right? And Socrates, I'm paraphrasing, he said, the man that lives a good life and an intelligent life is the one that discusses ideas with others. The one that leads an average life talks about events, and the one that leads a poor life, in so many words, talks about other people. Now, you think about that. What you want to do is talk about the ideas and surround them by looking at them from different perspectives so that you come to understand the environment in which you're operating in and in which you're about to make a decision. So the statement is, the unexamined life is not worth living. The reason why that happens is because things are stacked up against you that you're blind to, that you haven't thought about or anticipated so that you could counteract the badness should they occur. And they just slap you upside the head unexpectedly at the worst possible time. I've got to tell you, that's not the life that I wish to live. I can think longly and deeply about things, and I can look at things from different perspectives, and I can make the best decisions I possibly can about my life and my family. But invariably, things will occur that are totally unexpected, and they negatively impact you. So what do? You pick yourself up off the floor, you learn from it, and then you strive not to repeat it as you go forward from there. But it all starts with you examining who you are, what is important to you, and why is it important to you before you act. And with that, my friends, I think we're done for today, and I will be back with you in a very, very short time with episode 80. Be careful, and I will see you then. All the best.